The James Show Podcast.
You know, we got a lot of excitement out of Austin over the weekend because at the last second, your governor vetoed some bills and signed some other bills. And we don't have the pocket veto like they have in D.C. in Austin. If he doesn't sign the bill after a certain period of time, it becomes law no matter what. So the signing of it is just to signal, hey, I'm not going to veto this, I suppose. But one of the more talked about provisions was the ban on THC that had passed and then got vetoed and then will be brought back up because Governor Greg Abbott also called a special session. Will it survive? Will legal THC survive the special session? Should legal THC survive the special session? Now, I'm one of those annoying, just high-rolling libertarians who thinks all drugs should be legal and over-the-counter. I know you probably don't agree with me. Last time I looked it up, it's between 9 and 11% of the population agrees with me. So okay, you don't agree with me. So just tell me where you're at and why. 800-288-9227. We're going to start with Chris in Dallas here on WBAP. Go.
Good afternoon. I've had over 30,000 addicts through my doors. I'm the director of homeless to home ownership, and I disseminate information. Since Colorado legalized pot, vehicular manslaughter is up 151%. There's a reason. When you smoke pot, 72 hours later, you're still 25% impaired. It takes you that much longer to see the 5-year-old run in front of your car to get the ball, and you hit the brakes. So I have no problem. People want to smoke pot. Just give us your driver's license so you stop killing our kids.
Okay, so it's they're killing our kids with bad driving, and that's why you want THC to be illegal.
Yeah, unless you're okay. See, they already killed my kid, a drunk driver, a high driver, 20 years ago, which is why I do what I do. So my job in life is to stop drunk drivers, impaired drivers from killing other people. So I have no problem. People want to sit in their house and get baked. God bless you. But as soon as you get on the road, you know what you're doing. You're putting other lives at risk.
So what if we make it like alcohol? It's legal, but if you're impaired on it while you're driving, then that's illegal.
Sure. However, there's a difference between alcohol and pot. You can drink, you can have 5 martinis today, and you're drunk as a skunk. Tomorrow morning, you wake up, you have a hangover, but you're not impaired. When you smoke pot, 3 days later, you're still impaired. Remember that.
Yeah, well, listen, a lot of us are going to be suspicious of that because, I mean, how do you explain Snoop Dogg and Willie Nelson? They would just be running into the ditch every Tuesday if that was the case.
Well, it's not 100%.
What percent is it?
Don't kill 100%. Come on. Okay,
so what percent is it? What percentage threshold would be low enough that you would change your stance?
0.
So if an endeavor is 0.1% flawed and has a bad outcome 1 out of 10,000 times, do you think that should be outlawed?
I have no opinion on that statement. Geez, we're getting down to the nitty gritty.
Well, no, look, because I'm not necessarily arguing with you. I'm just trying to find out where your boundaries are. Because there's a lot of people who will say, well, if it costs one life, it should be illegal. Well, then you should make Kit Kats illegal because look at all the people that are eating themselves to death. You should make going outside and playing golf in the rain illegal. Some guy died getting struck by lightning on the golf course this weekend. So, I mean, that's not a rational place. And I'm not saying your position is irrational. I'm just trying to figure out where your boundaries are.
Haven't thought of my boundaries. You're asking me a question I've never thought of. How's that?
Fair enough. No, that works. I appreciate you calling in and explaining your position, Chris. You did a great job. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Enjoy your show.
Thank you. Albert in Mesquite, where are you on the THC ban? You think it'll survive the special session?
Well, I think they should ban it. The guy you just spoke with brought up some very important issues. But the THC is a primary psychoactive compound, which can make you hallucinate, compared to CBD, that is therapeutic for pain and all that, which seems to help out people. I know people that take that. The THC cannabis, the little edibles, the problem I see with it is you can be riding down the road and just somebody's sitting there munching them all day like M&Ms. Then, of course, they drop the bag. The soccer mom drops the bag at the soccer field, and the kid picks it up and starts eating them too. It's a mind-altering drug. We all know that. That being said, would I like to smoke pot at home? Yes, I would. But I don't think those things should be legal. And just being able to go down to your local Kroger and buy a 5-pound bag of edible THCs.
So how do you reconcile that with alcohol?
Well, you're comparing apples to oranges. I mean, alcohol's been through prohibition and everything else. If you buy alcohol, first off, you have to be ID'd. You have to be 21 years old. You're buying it from a place that's legally selling it. And if you get pulled over, open container law, then yeah, you get the breathalyzer and you go to jail. If you can prove, or you have some sort of special machine that can say, okay, here, breathe into this, and I just ate 16 edibles and a bag of chips and a chili dog because I'm stoned, how do you prove that I'm on THC while I'm driving? You can prove I'm on alcohol while I'm driving. How do you prove they're on THC when they're driving?
I would say give them a field sobriety test, make them see if they can touch their nose with their eyes closed or make them walk a straight line or say their ABCs backwards. And if you can, demonstrate that you have your basic motor functions and reflexes, then you should be good to go.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this. What about the psychoactive compounds in THC to where there is a possibility that you may take too many? Now, the other guy you had earlier on, the reason I called in was because of him saying, I can eat a whole bag of edibles and I won't die. Well, good. I want to watch him eat 3 bags of it and see if he dies. Because there is a point in time where your body be oversaturated with some sort of compound and may create another problem that we don't know about. Like I said, once again, I wish everyone can go on home and smoke some weed and watch South Park. But when you're out there in public and driving and have these little edibles that kids are going to think they're candy, we've already had problems with that in other states that you hear about. So that's a big issue there. And on top of that, also, people smoke weed all the time now and they get pulled over. There's still cognitive function. You mentioned Snoop Dogg and Willie Nelson.
Right.
They're able to perform on stage high as all get out. So to say they can't drive a car while they're stoned, well, those are the few exceptions. But people that say, hey, well, I can eat THC edibles right now, let's go ahead and have a dozen of them, and then knocks them on their butt, and you passed out because they're so baked. You remember the movie Half Baked? When they're all on the couch.
And then they started flying out the window. Yeah,
right.
I love Half-Baked.
Well, it is a psychoactive compound, and that's the point I'm trying to bring up to you.
I find it quite interesting that you admit Willie Nelson can play the bridge solo on Whiskey River, but can't operate a car on weed?
I never said he couldn't operate a car on weed.
But so they can. So the whole car operation concern, where did that come from? I thought you just blew that out of the water yourself. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm just out of time. I looked at the clock. You guys are making some great arguments here. Thank you. That's Albert in Mesquite. Brent, Lake Weatherford, you're on WBAP. Go.
James, I want to apologize because I don't know the difference between THC and the CBD. I found out I had cancer last September. And of course, I had a little bit of anxiety I've been dealing with. And my sweetheart, she said, well, before I went to sleep, kisses me and gives me this little gummy, and man, I go to sleep. And so you might need to educate me a little bit, the difference of them. But I don't have any ill effects the next day. I'm 73 years old. I get up, work around my lake house, I work around her house. I do benevolent things, go to morning prayer. And so I guess I need some education. But what I take, I guess I don't want you to give you the name of it, but it's great stuff for me.
Well, right now it's legal. If you want that to continue to be legal, you might want to pay attention to the special session, or at least the results of the special session. CBD is some compound that is in cannabis genus plants that has therapeutic effects. The THC is the one that gets you high, but some people find that therapeutic in different ways. I don't know. I don't need any drugs, legal or illegal. I'm just a regular guy. So, I mean, I go to sleep when I want. Sometimes if I'm having a hard time, like if I didn't exercise that day, I'll just kill it with bourbon. So, I'm not going to judge you if you need chemical assistance to sleep well. That's fine. But man, I
can tell you one thing, James. It's pretty funny. With my condition, I have to get up and pee, 3 or 4 o'clock. One time I woke up a little too early, and I don't know if the effects of the gummy, but I literally had to crawl back to get in bed. I couldn't walk. So, yeah. I got back to the couch, and then I had to crawl, and I was crawling up over the bed. And she said, what's wrong? I said, I'm just trying to get in bed. So I guess you have to sleep 4, 5, 6 hours before, but I don't know the one I take. it's THC or CBD. I just don't know the difference of them.
Yeah, the THC gets you high, the CBD doesn't, and I think it's just minuscule differences after that. Thank you very much for your call, Brenton Lake Weatherford. This is Charles in Paris. You're on WBAP.
Yeah, but everybody's got an opinion. You and I both know that, and I understand your opinion. Everything ought to be legal.
Yeah,
but when you look at all the states have started small like we're doing, and then they go to medical, and then they go to recreational. And I agree with your caller earlier that said that everybody, a lot of this was about the regulation and control. You and I both know that's just taxes any way you look at it. And the medical profession wanting to be able to write their subscriptions like they do in Oklahoma and other states.
Well, it's also a power that they get to charge lobbyists for. Do you want the rules written in your favor? We control them now. And so now they get money from lobbyists because they control this. If it was under my system, there would be no alcohol lobby. There would be no weed lobby. There would be no rules to lobby in your favor, to be rewritten in your favor. So that would get rid of the lobbyist problem. But anyway, go ahead. I was just clearing up that.
I understand your libertarian position. I lean libertarian on some things, but if we did it that way, if we just said, "Oh, everything's legal," I mean, look at how many alcohol deaths, alcohol-related deaths are caused every day in Texas. You and I both know it's horrendous. You're going to have some people who are going to abuse it no matter what, whether they do it under a legal system or illegal system.
Agreed.
They're going to abuse it.
Yeah.
And right now, there is no test. And I used to be a deputy in Oklahoma, and I still have a lot of friends that are in law enforcement. Right now, there is no test that will positively tell us if someone is, you can tell they're impaired, but you can't tell what they're impaired on without a blood test. And that takes time.
Well, we could say that about.
How do you turn them loose? How do you turn them loose? As a cop,
I have the answer to that. I got it. I have the answer to that. Number one, we don't have the ability to instantly test the toxicology on a lot of these other drugs that can affect your driving, pain pills and whatnot. And a lot of stuff that's over the counter, like sleep medicine stuff that can affect your driving. So those are still legal. I would point at that, number one. Number two, the field sobriety test should sum it up for everyone. Yeah, they may look impaired. You may think they stink, or they may have had 28 gummies, but if they can walk a straight line, if they can prove their reflexes, if they can close their eyes and touch their nose and say their alphabet backwards, and the other things we generally associate with field sobriety tests, I say legally speaking, they are good to go to drive. That's all it takes.
But you still have the fact that if that officer turns that person loose, they go down the road and they kill somebody, then it comes back on that officer. You understand what I'm saying? There's a deal called last chance.
I know, but then the officer shows the officer shows the jury the video and says, "Wouldn't you make the same decision I made in the same situation?"
Well, I don't agree, but we'll leave it at that.
No, I don't expect you to. I know. I'm almost scared to do topics like this because I know 90% of people disagree with me on that. So I really appreciate y'all just putting up with me at this point.
Well, everybody's got a right to their opinion, James. You and I know that,
right?
And that's where we get in trouble with the libtards. They don't want you and I to have an opinion.
Well, listen, I hope y'all all at least understand, and I don't mean just you, everyone else that's disagreeing with me right now and gritting their teeth, is that I look at prohibition and I see that before alcohol was made illegal, deaths were at a certain level. When it was made illegal, the deaths from alcohol actually went up. When prohibition was repealed, the deaths went back down. And conversely, who has the biggest problem, or where are most of our drug deaths coming from right now in America? It's not coming from weed. It's not even coming from alcohol. It's coming from like oxys, and it's coming from fentanyl, and it's coming from these really souped up opioids, most of which have gone through the most strict government control and regulation process possible. Let's bring in the legal analyst of the James Show, the great Jeremy Rosenthal. TexasDefenseFirm.com is his website. Welcome back, sir. Before we get into the Carmelo Anthony story, what is the protocol as it stands right now? We were talking about the THC ban being vetoed, and a lot of the concern from callers was that if you take a bunch of gummies and you're impaired and you get pulled over in a traffic stop, how do the cops determine if you're impaired? They don't have a breathalyzer.
That's a fabulous question. Anything that you ingest into your body that causes the loss of the normal use of your mental or physical faculties triggers a DWI. And literally that could be anything. Obviously alcohol. It could be gummies. It can be THC. I tell juries, I joke with them, it can be coffee. And then, who wants me on the road without my coffee? Or it could be sugar or any other substance. But to test it, you have to have, in those instances, a blood test, because the police have to be able to prove what caused that intoxication. Alcohol is the only substance that has a per se number associated with it. That's 0.08. That is per se intoxicated. In other words, no matter what your tolerance level, no matter how much you drink or whether you don't drink, everybody at 0.08 is unsafe to drive. When you have THC levels, though, that's not necessarily the case, because you have some recreational users who never touch the stuff, and their very first time or second time may show dramatically more symptoms of intoxication than somebody who is prescribed it legally and takes it every day. So that's the really, really, really hard part. Most police officers would tell you they kind of know it when they see it, and the blood test sort of confirms it.
Okay, to our top story for today's legal segment, Carmelo Anthony indicted on first-degree murder charges. Do we agree with that it should be first degree and not second degree, or maybe even manslaughter?
If I'm the district attorney in Collin County, I'm indicting this as a first-degree felony. And if Mr. Anthony and his lawyers want to come and argue for something lesser, they're welcome to do that. But I didn't see this happening any other way than being a first-degree intentional homicide indictment. As you understand, James, and I think everybody else knows, murder always tracks the intent element. It is the degree of intent to kill that tracks whether or not it's criminally negligent homicide, a traffic accident, or Alec Baldwin having his head up his rear and shooting somebody on the set of a movie, or somebody like Luigi Mangione that takes months and months and months of preparation. In this instance, I wouldn't expect an indictment for anything other than first-degree murder.
What makes it first-degree murder in this case?
You can argue that there was intent to kill, that the stab was to the heart, that he brought the knife with him, that he intended to end his life. Now, you don't have a lot of facts and I don't think anybody would tell you. I don't think anybody would argue that Carmelo Anthony woke up that morning intending to kill anybody. But when you have a stab to the heart, you didn't stab him in the arm, you didn't stab him in the waist, you didn't stab him somewhere else, right? In the nether regions, you stabbed him in the heart. But you've identified the fight here, James, which is the fight in this case. It's between manslaughter and first degree. If I'm the defense in this case, I don't know that you've got a very strong self-defense argument. I've just not heard anything that suggests that it's good enough. But you definitely have evidence that it was not premeditated, right? You have evidence that he, after the stabbing was over, he asked, is the other guy all right? Again, you can point to the fact that he only stabbed once as evidence that we weren't trying to kill anybody. So I think that's the fight in this case. That's the entire fight. Is this manslaughter? Is it homicide? And that's where the tension is here.
Well, if they charge him with murder, but the jury thinks it's manslaughter, they can change that sort of in the process, right?
Correct. You have what are called lesser included offenses, which basically means that you can, as long as all of the facts for the greater charge fit into the lesser charge, and the judge and the parties agree and the judge agrees, then the jury can be charged with that lesser included. Think, for instance, you're charged with theft over $200,000 and the prosecution comes to trial and proves that you only stole $50. Well, it's a lesser included offense, and if the jury is charged that way and everybody agrees, the jury can convict on the lower charge. So if it's all encompassing, then they can get it for the lower one, and you would absolutely think that would be the case here.
So we have another weird situation where it looks so obvious that this guy's guilty. Do we expect him to take a plea deal at some point?
I don't know about that either. And if I'm the Collin County DA's office, I probably prefer to have this thing tried. And I don't know that a plea deal, as long as if I'm the DA, I'm talking to the family and I'm asking the family kind of how they feel, what they want here. And if the family is okay with the plea deal and Carmelo Anthony is okay with the plea deal, then if I'm the DA, I don't see a whole lot wrong with that. But if a lot of times that's where these cases get tried is over punishment. Carmelo Anthony thinks that the punishment for this, he may say, fine, I'll plead guilty to this. I'll take 10 years. And the DA say, no, we're not going to do that. That's far too little here. And so sometimes we have a guilt innocence trial, even though what we're really fighting over here is the ultimate punishment.
The sentence.
I think that's probably where this goes.
I hear you. All right, good stuff. Jeremy Rosenthal, our legal analyst from TexasDefenseFirm.com. Hey, I got a question before we move on to our next topic. This was David who was asking about the situation with Carmelo Anthony. He was indicted on first-degree murder in Collin County. David asks, why not capital murder, as he committed a felony while killing a minor? He was 18 at the time. Why is this not capital murder?
In Texas, I believe to be capital for the killing of a minor, the minor has to be 10 years of age or younger. So for capital murder, you always have to have an aggravating factor. It could be the commission of another felony, another connected felony. It could be against a law enforcement person. It could be bank robbery or some type of fraudulent scheme, and it's a killing to get some type of proceeds. But here, there doesn't really seem to be an aggravating factor that's really too closely connected. So that's why.
All right. Well, I sent you this viral video from some other guy that's a divorce lawyer. He was asked the question, like, what's some of the craziest provisions you've seen in a prenup that actually got upheld in court? So remember, people, when you're hearing this has already been adjudicated and upheld by a judge in a court.
The most shocking prenup I've ever seen, which was enforceable, had a provision that said that for every 10 pounds the wife gained in the marriage, she would lose $10,000 a month in alimony. He was very concerned that she was going to become less attractive and he was going to become more wealthy. So his solution to this was in the prenuptial agreement. He wanted a clause that said if they divorced, she was going to get like $70,000 a month for alimony. But for every 10 pounds she gained from the date of marriage, she would forfeit $10,000 a month worth of alimony. And it was designed to sort of create an incentive that she would remain thin. And that was enforceable, meaning they tried to challenge and set aside that provision. And the court said, this is a disgusting provision. I don't know why you married this person, but it's enforceable. It's a contract. The two of you signed it, and you had a right to sign it, and you agreed to these rules, and they may be ridiculous rules, but you agreed to them, and you have a right to do that. I think it's a kind of love. I think it's a form of love. Is it a form of love I'd be interested in? No, I think it's very shallow in some ways. There's something very honest about it. I mean, you can't argue with the fact that there's something very upfront about it. He was making very clear and putting in writing, here's the value you bring to this relationship. I consider your physical appearance vitally important to this relationship. And by the way, don't skip the other side of that equation. She was going to get $70,000 a month. That's a very impressive number. So I think she also understood there was a value to be attached to him as well. Is it something I would be interested in on either side of that equation? No. But do I have a right to say to someone that's not love?
So, wow, Jeremy Rosenthal, legal analyst on the James Show, your response to that prenup?
Prenups are tricky things, and they're controversial things, and really, in the grand scheme of things, they're kind of newer things. Texas has come a long way with marital law and marital property and how you dispose of it, but I don't know that would necessarily be enforced. I think it could be a judgment call for a judge. There's part of whether or not a judge enforces a prenup is whether or not it's what's called unconscionable, or to some degree whether or not it violates public policy. And you would think that it's a pretty subjective thing, right? Are we mocking the institution of marriage? That's what the judge could fundamentally veto something like this over, I would think.
Well, so do you think that would work in Texas? Because this guy said it got held up in court. Now, I don't know what state he's in. Because then my second question is, there's a prenuptial. Is there something that's like a postnuptial or just a nuptial agreement? So, like, if you have an existing wife, could you maybe make her sign a contract? Or not make her, but could she voluntarily enter into a similar contract?
The rules with prenuptial agreements are that they have to be in writing prior to the marriage. There has to be full disclosure. There are certain things that you can never bargain for in a prenup. You can never bargain for, if we get divorced, I get the kids. Can't do that. If we get divorced, my child support's going to be this. You can't do that. So you can bargain for typically pre-existing assets. You can, on occasion, get a post-nuptial agreement after the marriage is over. But I don't believe that you can amend the agreement while the parties are married. I think there's just simply too much room, and I think this is why the legislature thinks there's just too much room for abuse. There's too many power controls, too many struggles, too many emotions that are sort of involved there. So that's why you see prenups being so rigid and having to be done before the marriage is entered into.
Boy, part of that lawyer in business that you're in is pretty cold stuff there, Jeremy Rosenthal.
Well, look, I mean, if I can have a client who's got $70,000 to wave in front of somebody's nose, we can get pretty creative on how we do these things.
Jeremy, I'm so surprised that these two kids couldn't work it out. I'm surprised the marriage it was built on such a strong foundation of love and trust. I can't believe that they ever needed to get a divorce. Jeremy Rosenthal, TexasDefenseFirm.com is his website. Thank you very much, sir.
The James Show Podcast.